Welcome to Noel's Good Friend Show. I'm your host, Noel. It's a show where I invite my friends to talk about friendship, how to meet new people, and how to be a good friend. Today's episode is called Work, Bestie. It's all about becoming friends with people at work. Joining me today is an incredible designer and mentor, the Commander Barb-in-Chief himself, and a very, very good friend. Please welcome Keith. Hey, Keith. Welcome. You look amazing. I love these puffs.
Thank you. It took 40 minutes.
Oh my God. Well, it was worth every minute. Keith and I met while working at a murder mystery game company, which is one of the most unique jobs that I've had, and I think for you too, Keith. But we were both graphic designers. The job was fully remote, but somehow we were able to stay in touch through those years. We'll jump right into it. Keith, what are your earliest memories of you and I working at that company?
Earliest memories would be when you did your orientation and onboarding. I was the lucky chosen one to do it. I think it's because I was queer. They
let's group them together.
Like, put them to hurt them like sheep. I actually got you confused with the other person that they were interviewing. I think I told you this. They said that there was a drag queen that was interviewing. So I was like, oh my God, there's a drag queen. I would love to. So they decided to not let us know that you weren't a drag queen. So I was like, and then you're like, hi. I was like, oh, they did not mention their special skill was drag. So I'm not gonna push this any further. So
wait, I did not know that. Like, you're actually jogging my memory right now.
I think about it so later on, but you probably forgot because it was such a long, ridiculous memory. But then you just kept on. I was like, no, they're not a drag queen because they would have mentioned a drag queen would have been.
Yeah, that's kind of like a big detail to miss out on. They were very talented. They're very talented.
There was nothing wrong with them. Like they were good.
I think it's personality. I think the interview process went, and I was like killing it in the interview. I kept making jokes because it was like a panel interview, and I kept making jokes. I was like, oh, it's like a pageant, and they were like, oh my God. Well, my earliest memory was that same thing that, you were my orientation buddy. I think we just had a really good conversation about being queer in like the graphic design world and how I think we were both surprised by how few kind of like gay men there were in graphic design. But yeah, it was like instant connection. I felt so much like safer and like, obviously like so excited to start the job because, you were the kind of person ushering me in. Prior to you and I meeting, have you ever made a friend from work?
I think at most of my jobs, I've been able to like make at least one or two friends. Jaquita, and then by proxy, her sister Gabby. Love them to death. I met them at one of my worst jobs.
Was it also a design job?
So I was a designer there. Actually, funny enough, the CEO was also of the queer community. He was gay. He was so proud that he transitioned his husband. He always talked about. He's like, oh, before my husband met me, he was straight, and now, okay, honey,
he turned him out. I was like, transition. I was like, oh, word.
Oh, wrong.
I was like, oh.
We still keep this day. Honestly, such a gem, so funny. She's almost like another sister to me is what it feels like. We would always just like gag and giggle. We would just gag and giggle. And like she was great. I love her. I love her so much.
For me, I've made friends at previous jobs before, but I think, it was often like isolated to like when we were both working there, but then after the fact that, we kind of like lost touch. In many ways, like you're like one of the first friends that I made and like stayed in touch with after like working. You know what I mean? Do you think having friends at work can make a stressful job feel more manageable?
Yeah, I would say so. Again, like looking back at that first job, even a job that you like, it can make it more enjoyable. I think. So I would definitely say.
You mean a job you don't like? Yes.
Yeah, I love that you don't like a job that you do. I think a friend can make any job more enjoyable. I do think it's better at a worse job because you have a common enemy to like, hey, this. Yeah. I agree. It's like,
totally.
You have a common friend. You have a common enemy, a common foe. And I think that strengthens that friendship, and you don't feel alone in those worst jobs.
Are there things you feel more comfortable sharing with coworkers than with personal friends?
Yeah, honestly, it's just out of like convenience and easy like, drama.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I got some tea.
Like the amount of backstory I have to give to a personal friend of like, so this person who works in finance, they're related to this other person who's in this department and da. It's like, I don't have, it's too, I can just go straight to like a friend at work and be like, girl.
I totally agree. I think there's just certain things too. The other thing is like complaining about work stuff to personal friends. It's so uninteresting and boring that even when I tell this, but then when you tell a work friend, because they also know the context and they might be suffering from the same things, it's it feels a lot more satisfying to tell that story. Do you think workplaces encourage or discourage friendships among coworkers?
Healthy jobs do. Toxic workplaces don't. Like 100%. I think a good workplace encourages community relationships and fosters a place where you can have a friend. With that being said, they don't. They don't foster them. A lot of times they like to keep things, they like to make you do group work with people that you don't like, and then they silo you off. And then the only time that you do get to have like fun with your friend is at like work events where they're like heavily watching you guys. Like, oh, there goes the clique again. I just want to talk to people that I'm friends with. I'll mingle and work the room if I have to, but like, can I just be with my good Judy? And a lot of jobs do not foster that.
I'd agree. I mean, foster is one thing, but I think sometimes they're just like not supportive of like, for example, if you and a bunch of your friends like start laughing and having fun, it's almost like it's unprofessional to have a good time, I guess. I've definitely been in trouble at several points in my career. I guess it's like it's a precedent set by when I was in elementary school. I'm like, you know, good kid, but very talkative, too loud in class.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're friends, because I got the exact same notes.
This is actually kind of an aside. I don't even know if it's gonna make this to the episode, but there were days when I was in elementary school where I would just be like, I think I'm gonna be sad today. So I'm gonna come into school and I'm like, pretend to be sad, hoping that somebody asked if I'm okay. And nobody gave a shit. So then I'll just start laughing and just like thinking with people again.
Sagittarius is disgusting.
I was like, yeah, nobody gave a shit.
Just, you know what? No one sees them crying.
Like, fine, I'm over this.
I absolutely hate it here.
We're gonna take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Keith on Noel's Good Friend Show. Welcome back. I'm here with my good friend Keith. We're talking about friends at work. So Keith, what's one of the most memorable experiences you've had with a work friend?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Jaquita. I'm gonna paint the picture. I worked at in DC, and I worked on Pennsylvania Avenue. Worked in like this big building and everything. And like the basement of the building was like this like back garage place where you can like get mail and get vending machine snacks, and like the trucks would come in and all that stuff. I just remember us always going back there and just like letting out all of our grievances about anyone and everyone. Being able to just be authentically catty without having to have the facade of, per our last email, like I'm glad I could just be. And those memories is going down, getting snacks, just like they just felt so organic, and I always cherish them. They're my favorite memories about working there.
I think what's beautiful about that is, one of the things that we try to figure out on this show is like, if we could break down some of the basic tenets of good friendship, it seems like one of the through lines of all good friendships is this kind of protective space, metaphysical space that we create between us and our friend, where it allows us to feel safe to be ourselves. And so that's kind of what you're touching on. Like, whether it's this smelly vending machine room or like the mail room, you found these spaces where, yeah, you didn't have to put up the facade of like kind of corporate ease, right? You could just be yourself. And I think that's what makes for a really good friend. I was thinking about this one time, my coworker, she'd come to work with kimbap, which is like that Korean sushi. And so she'd just come up to me. She's like, I have kimbap. Let's go to the kitchen. And so we'd be in the kitchen just eating like, Like it was like at like 9 a.m. because we didn't want to share with anybody else. How do you tell if a work friend is genuine or just being friendly because of the environment?
Ooh, okay. I have a friend, and I would say a mentee from like my most recent job. She mentioned it, like she just mentioned it out loud, but I'd never had to like say it. A test. That test can like be whatever you deem a friendship test to be. It doesn't have to be like this grand old thing. It can be like I give you a secret, and I say, don't tell anybody about this. If I hear it back, I leave.
Mm.
You give them that kind of test. Like, if I explicitly tell you, don't tell anybody. This is very like, and that's me testing you.
Yeah.
Okay, if anybody in the future who's I work with you, I'm kidding. That's not a test.
As for me, one of the easiest tells is somebody sharing with you as much as you are sharing with them.
That's even like if any friendship, like just notice, are they being as transparent with me as I am with them? Are they getting me where I'm at? Or are they just kind of like watching from above going, child, look at that mess?
Have you ever felt betrayed or been let down by a work friend? And how did it affect your relationship?
I can say I've been betrayed by a work friend. Mm-hmm. And heck, I can even say, looking back at it, I've accidentally betrayed a work friend. You know, sometimes you don't know it until after the fact. It's not a good feeling to be on either side of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it crushes your heart when you realize that you have betrayed them. If you didn't have malice intent behind it.
Yeah.
And I think what's worse, like when there's a power dynamic, like when you put your friendship into someone who's above you. And I don't think I can ever do that again because I've done it twice. One successful, love them dearly, Madeline. Hey, other one, well, we don't talk about Bruno.
I think the simplest way that I've been betrayed by somebody at work is that somebody threw me under the bus. That is the antithesis of being a good work friend. You know what I mean? Because I think to be a good work friend, it's like, honestly, it doesn't even matter if the blame isn't 50-50. It's like, we're in this together. We're a team anyway. When we think about the work environment, like you're all working for the same company. So for all intents and purposes, you're on the same team. You have the same goals. So it actually benefits no one when you create this like adversarial relationship between your coworkers. So you're pitting people against each other. There's just like no benefit to that. What happens when work dynamics, like competition for a promotion, strain a friendship? Have you ever felt like you had to compete with a coworker?
In different ways, I feel like I'm always competing with coworkers, that it be friend or foe. And I don't I'm doing it. It all boils down to like my race and my who I like to sleep in bed with. So
which are
man, exactly. That's definitely a combination of those two where I feel like I have to like be on at all times. Like this for promotion, so to see other people get to be like lackadaisical and get promoted, it does build some resentment and bitterness towards them, like friend or not. So when a friend does get that and they don't speak up on my behalf, that does hurt because it's competition inherently because of just like who I was born as. Like, I was born this way, baby. Gaga.
I got you.
I didn't know you knew. So it's definitely that sense of competition's already there. And then to see a friend who has that privilege that they won't acknowledge. And I wish they would, because then I would feel more seen. I would feel more valued as a friend, because you're going to get what you need to get because of how you look. It would be nice if you would like reach your hand down and pull me up with you instead of making it more of a competition, regardless of friend or not. But a friend makes it hurt. It hurts more.
Yeah, totally.
I can definitely say that.
Right. I mean, you know what? I take this a step further because I feel like I found myself actually on the I've been in that position before, but I found myself being on the other side of it, where I was like receiving whatever the praise or what have you, and it ruffled some feathers with people at work, and I think the work environment isn't getting enough flack for it. Right. It's like these environments where people are made to feel like success is a zero-sum game. If you succeed, I won't succeed. And if I succeed, you won't succeed. Like that is a creation of the environment that you're in. You know what I mean? And so I try to think of it in terms of like, am I really up against somebody, or is it this environment that's making me feel like I am? And I think, I think I'm not going to speak from a place of privilege to be like, just leave that job, because it's always like, it's not always that easy. And also some form of that is existing in pretty much every job in existence, but it's something that at least like I want to offer us to be mindful of, right? It's like, are we really up against our coworkers, or is it the environment that we're put in forcing us to feel like we are pit against each other? With all these things considered, what are some boundaries you try to maintain in work friendship?
Okay, I like to maintain. First of all, I have really bad boundaries. Let's just put that out there in the first place.
Me too. I'm gonna be completely honest.
I'm working on that as a human being. So, like, newfound boundaries would be, I don't need you to know all of my intimate details. Like, if you ever get past that work friend and become an actual friend, and you get to know more about, like, hey, my mom's going through. But other than that, you don't get to know that stuff, and I think that's okay. I think being more mindful about letting the walls down sooner is a boundary that I definitely think I need to work on in the future.
Yeah.
Like, don't get too close unless I'm letting you. Unless I see that you let some more wall down. Like, if we can like begin to like build sandcastles instead of like permanent structures, then we can get somewhere. But until then, it's a wall.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll admit I'm also a notorious oversharer at work. It's like hard for me to always know when to kind of like withhold certain information. But I think what I've found is, honestly, I've suffered. Like it's through my experiences of like oversharing and it not going my way have I learned like, okay, this is probably like a little too much to share. And a lot of it is, if we're talking about it through the lens of good friendship, for example, when I'm really frustrated at work, that's the times that I feel like I have overshared. It's like my frustrations with work, I end up like telling my coworkers. And then these days, I've actually learned to kind of just take a pause. I haven't needed to do it in a long time, but in the times where I felt like I have, taking a pause, because usually what happens is I usually spend my lunch breaks with my coworkers, and that's when I like vent. I'll take that same lunch break and call a friend, this like kind of neutral third party that I can confide in all my feelings and frustrations and all this stuff that is not going to come back to me in a different context at work, right? Learning the parameters of what is and isn't appropriate to speak about at work is one end of it. But the other end of it is like, there's an inherent need to express our frustrations and just finding healthy places to express that, which for me is confiding in a different friend outside of work is how I circumvent that.
Oh, 100%. If I can like tack on to that, when you need to vent, that ventilation goes somewhere else. So it's better to vent at home where you know it's going to come back to you, as opposed to venting at work where you don't know where it's going. So that's what I learned about that's what a vent is, just letting it out.
We're going to take another break, but stick around and we'll be back with more Keith on Noel's Good Friendship. We're here with Keith on Noel's Good Friend Show talking about work friends. Have you ever stayed close with a work friend after leaving a job, and what made that relationship last?
Well, obviously, I would, unless you got something to tell me, I would.
Actually, it's our last call ever. I've gotten my content out of you.
No, I would. I'll just keep it within this little bubble. I have other friends and we have different dynamics. But at least with us two, we had something that was mutually common. We both like men. We were both of a pigmentation. We both come from diverse, cultures. And I think we also just had a good like rapport and chemistry that just like it was easy just to like connect. And then I think being able to always like, even though you were always remote, I think that helped our friendship more because we had to be FaceTiming on a regular basis. We both wanted to be consistent. There wasn't one person who was like, fine, let's do it. I think there has to be, we both want that and we both feel valuable in the friendship. I think those things make for like constant connections.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that makes relationships last is shared values. Like, because then it doesn't feel like, in many ways, I don't feel like I'm trying to really stay in touch. It's gravity, right? Like, oh, I'm like going through life and I think of stuff like, oh, like I haven't called Keith in a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's a natural inclination for me to kind of reach out to you and to reconnect and whatnot, because I don't know, that's just how I think good friendships work.
I also think adult good friendship work where you realize the other you have Sonder, you realize there's other life happening, realizing that a friendship as an adult, like the other person has their own life, their own things happening, especially if I don't see you every day, and then go, hey, I haven't checked in this person. I hope your life is good. And then taking the initiative to like reach out, check in on them. I think that's the important part, is that there's a want. I want to talk to you. It's not like I need to, because at work, I have to communicate with you. I have to have a rapport so that no one goes, this person's combative and I don't got to worry about that. So once the job isn't a thing, it's like any friendship. I want to communicate with you.
Totally. How do you navigate losing touch with a work friend after changing job?
It's bittersweet, especially when like you had a really good rapport or banter with that person. It's like I've never experienced it, but I can only imagine. It's like when your parents get divorced and
this analogy, keep going. I'm with you. Go on. I don't know where we're going.
It's like when your parents get divorced and like, let's say your dad's real particular. He wants to take one sibling and the other sibling has to go with the mom, or even worse, you had step siblings and now you can't be with them anymore because you have a new mommy.
I actually got this advice from another friend of mine, that is, you don't know if your work friend is really a friend until after you leave the job. And I think that's true. You know what I mean?
No, that's true.
But I actually kind of want to nuance this too. Like, something I'm trying to kind of encourage us to think about when it comes to like friendships for this show is that it doesn't have to last forever for it to be valuable. You know what I mean? And so, if we were really good friends while we were working together, that we were able to kind of look out for one another and make each other feel seen and, kind of protected, at least within the time that we were there together. I think that's a beautiful thing too. There's a particular friend that I remember. We were both immigrants. We were both Asian, and
you're Asian.
Surprise! But we were treated very similarly while working at that job, and she just kept me sane, because it feels like when I would tell other people about it, or it felt like it was only happening to me, I felt really terrible. But she validated a lot of my feelings, and she she was always just so supportive of me, and I supported her. So say this all to say, since we left the job, we haven't stayed in touch as much. But, we'd see each other's Instagram stories and check in on each other. Oh, how the kids, da da da. Her kids, no, I don't have any. But
Noel.
that we know of. But I've had previous jobs where I don't stay in touch with them, but I still find those some of my most memorable experiences where I learned something about like the culture of work altogether. Were with people that I don't know where they are in the world now, but I wish them well. How do you handle the awkwardness of staying connected to a former work friend who still works at the same place?
I don't find it awkward, because it's life. Like, you don't always, like, you might leave somebody with, who cares? I don't find it difficult to maintain friendships with like a job that I've left or has left me. I have a person that like gets that specific point in my life, and if I ever need to reference it, they get it. Especially if they stay in my life. Like, it's like, oh, there's in jokes I have that I'll never have to like forget because that person's always there. I don't find it if they find it awkward, that's on them. I've never experienced that feeling about a job that I've left. I feel it everywhere else. Not about that kind of friendship.
Yeah.
So I don't find it awkward. Do you?
I think for me, if it is awkward, I think it's one of those things that with any friendship, I think certain boundaries just have to be up, right? Like, even if we are very close friends and let's say like somebody leaves a job not in very good terms, right? And when we hang out, it's just like, I just don't want to talk about that job. Totally fine. It's like there's a ton of others. I would honestly much prefer talking about any old other thing than work. Whether it's awkward or not awkward, there's ways in navigating and maintaining that friendship through it all. Do you think it's easier to drift apart from a work friend than any other type of friend?
No, I feel like high school friends are the easiest to friend. I don't talk to none of those. I had another word, but none of those people. I don't. I think I talked to one of them. Shout out to Deja. Hey, girl.
Mm-hmm.
I only talked to one of them, and that's literally it. And if I talk to somebody else and forgot about you, that means I don't talk to you.
Yeah.
I would say like that kind of friendship, I would say is easier to lose than a work. Cause I might see you on LinkedIn as a work friend. Like, I might see you at an event or, who knows? We can catch up there. The likelihood of me seeing somebody that I went to high school with, unless I work with you, is very unlikely. So I think that's the first, but I think you'll lose first and foremost.
I would say as a through line. So I've stayed in touch with my best friends from high school, but I understand that I'm a unique case. I had like a strangely great time in high school for a queer person. But like, what I was gonna say, like, I think across the board though, any kind of environment in which you are forced to be in, like, I mean, like, you're not forced to be in a job, like you elect to be there because you need to pay your bills. You don't choose your coworkers in the ways you don't choose your classmates. I think there is an easier kind of like falling out from that because, once you leave the job or you graduate from school, like the structure that allowed for your guys' constant interaction is now gone. All of these conversations about adult friendships, it requires a little bit of legwork and intentionality in maintaining. But I think if it's a good friendship, it's totally worth it. What's your advice for maintaining meaningful connections with work friends after you've moved on?
It's want to be around that person. Let it come naturally, let it come easily. Let them know that, like, in any kind of way that you value them. Let it be like, hey, girl, you look good every single day. Or, ooh, let's just go out to lunch. Any way that you can. Any way that feels natural and meaningful to you. Don't force yourself to, like, if you know you're not a lunch kind of person, but you're more of like I'd rather text you nonsense, and just ask your number, like, hey, I want to get, text. Boom.
Totally.
Friendship.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a believer that something you want in life is always in between two things. It's you moving towards something and you pulling your expectations of it a little bit back. And so how that translates to this situation for me is, I think leveling your expectations of how much you're going to interact with your work friend once you leave, you know what I mean? Because the structures that maintain your guys' connection, which is showing up to work every day, whether that's virtually or in person, that's going to change. But that doesn't mean that you guys have to stop being friends. There's many ways of staying in touch with somebody. I think you have this habit of sending me like Instagram reels. And I can't always watch them, but I appreciate that you send them to me, because it, just reminds me, actually, to be honest, whenever you send me those Instagram reels, that's when I remember, to call you, you know what I mean? And have like a full catch up. So, it doesn't have to be like a big effort. That's almost all the time we have for today. Thank you, Keith, for joining me. Had so much fun. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on my website, keithpink.net. I'm a graphic designer. I'm looking for work. Even after this airs, I'm on social media. I don't know my names. I'm sorry.
It's at Keith Pink.
There we go.
The fact that I know your handle and you don't is so funny. To you at home, I'm Noel, and this is Noel's Good Friend Show. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and thank you for being a good friend. Till next time. Bye.